Good evening and welcome to the miNEStry. I am Archbishop Dracul, and alongside me is Father Avram. Our creed is to inspire our parishioners with reflections on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Tonight we are reflecting on the ambitious game Golgo 13 Top Secret Episode, a 1988 story-based action game that was co-developed by Vik Tokai and Sunseibu Entertainment. The game is based off a popular manga series written and illustrated by Takao Saito that started back in 1968. Vik Tokai is known for other NES releases such as Clash at Demonhead and the Krion Conquest. They also produced a sequel to Top Secret Episode, the Mafat Conspiracy, 2 years later. Tonight, our guest is once again Christopher Hopper. Welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be with you again tonight.
It's great to have you again, Christopher. You got anything special going on that you want to tell people about?
Well, probably the biggest news here is we released a brand new audiobook, but it is unusual because my wife co-narrated it with me.
Oh, I think I saw the announcement for that, actually.
Yeah, so I think it's the first of its kind. Like, I don't know any other husband and wife, male-female co-narration of a sci-fi novel. If one exists, I don't know what it is. So we're pretty pumped, and it's been really well received this week, so that's been exciting.
Fantastic. And the name of the novel is?
The name of the novel is Dark Harvest Rebellion, Adaptives Book 1.
Very
Available on Audible.
So make sure to check that out. Christopher is a very prolific writer and renowned, has quite a following. Awesome sci-fi writer. Highly suggest him.
Thank you. Thanks for the shout out, guys.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Who is Golgo 13? This information is from the back of the first collection of mangas released in the US. Golgo 13 is the professional alias for a believed to be Japanese sniper assassin named Duke Togo, who primarily uses variations of the Armalite M16. The greatest recorded distance was a kill at 2,000 meters.
Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good.
I mean, I don't think you're believed to be Japanese sniper assassin. I think you're just certified to be at that point.
Absolutely.
100% accuracy, supposedly.
Duke has assumed a diverse range of cover occupations in categories such as military, media, business, police, and criminal, among others. He also ranks with the world's top linguists.
Okay, this is a bona fide Renaissance man. Like,
I mean, yeah, like military Renaissance man.
Like somehow you have the ability to take shots at 2,000 meters, which is 2 kilometers, right? Just in case we want to get that out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're smart enough to pass as a spy or a frontman for anything in military, in media, business, police, and criminal, among others. So we know there's other others in there. Oh yeah, he's also not just we have to assume a multilinguist, but in the world's top linguists. This guy, forget James Bond, everyone. Forget James Bond. This is the guy.
Yeah, this guy will make James Bond piss his pants.
100%. Dare we say he might make Chuck Norris piss his pants?
Nah. Chuck Norris drinks
Duke
I can't say
Togo's
that.
pee.
I was gonna say that. Yeah. Chuck Norris drinks Duke Togo's pee with his cereal.
That's why I'm here. This, I'm here to make sure that you're not ousted from the lectern.
A physical observation dossier shows that Duke is right-handed. He can run a marathon in 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 31 seconds,
Good.
and has the voice of a movie star, and, quote, lures all women in the world to the height of ecstasy, at any rate an amazing penis. Somebody did their homework.
I'm not sure what's more impressive, that this was conceived or that this was published. Like, both are phenomenal. I could only hope to write such characterization.
Yeah, I was pretty amazed by when I read that. I was like, oh, I have to talk about this. Like, it's just, it's so ridiculous. It works, you know?
Yeah. What, like, you know what we need to, we're just celebrating. We're just coming off of the Paris Summer Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to look up what I was just looking at the marathon this morning. Men's marathon. And okay, it was Tola. He's from Ethiopia. Any guesses on his time, gentlemen?
Oh man, I wouldn't even be able to begin to guess.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know anything about marathon running, really.
So 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 26 seconds.
And that's the world's best.
That's the world's best. So Duke Togo, with all the other things he does, also runs Olympic caliber marathons, probably in his business suit too.
Well, that's probably because he has that amazing penis to help him launch, further. It's like a third leg,
Good God. Well, and I think it needs to be noted that the American Mance, he finished P8 at 2 hours, 8 minutes, and 12 seconds. So just a few seconds ahead of Duke. So Duke would have officially finished P9 in the Summer Olympics in Paris. That's incredible.
Wow.
Are we not entirely sure if maybe the Turkish pistol shooter is actually a retired Golgo 13?
I think you're onto something. Oh my gosh. You heard it here, folks. God, that's a great point, Father. That's so good.
Well, either way, needless to say, he at any rate, he has an amazing penis.
Yes.
At any rate, if nothing else.
If nothing else.
And would, if he was a pole vaulter, would he have not cleared the bar because of it?
No, he can jump the pole vault without a pole.
Well, yeah, he doesn't need the pole, but it makes it difficult for him to get over the pole.
Father Avram, that was
jumping over.
Yes, Archbishop Dracul. Father Avram, that was a very astute point. He does not need the actual pole.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you
He's
for
one of the only men in the world, if not the only man in the world, that can actually successfully navigate a pole vault without a pole.
God, this stuff.
And that actually happened too. Like some guy's schlong got in the way of him clearing the bar. Yeah.
Oh wait, yes, that's that's why I bring it up. It's pretty popular in the Hopper house because of three sons who are all teenagers. They're pretty keen on that whole story. So
that's funny. I missed that one.
Well, it's worth looking at as soon as we're done recording.
Yeah.
So second only to John Dillermand. This is just a shout out to a super Super random Danish stop motion animated children's television series from 2021. Made for like their version of PBS. And it's just called John Dillermand, and he literally has a very long black and white spotted penis.
Wow.
I'm not kidding you. 39 episodes.
And this was PBS, mind you.
This is Danish. Yeah, basically Danish PBS. It's kind of
Wow. A testament to the creators. Developed in tandem with Sunseibu Entertainment providing the graphics for Vik Tokai's programming, we have Shoichi Yoshikawa. Director, writing, animation, and design for Golgo 13. Other works include Conflict for the NES in 1989. He got special thanks credit for that one. Worm, Journey to the Center of the Earth. For the NES in 1991, he did animation and design for that. Bonk 3, Bonk's Big Adventure, for the TurboGrafx 16 in 1993. He was the director for that game. So pretty well-rounded individual.
Mm-hmm.
Worm isn't bad, but
Conflict is a classic, though.
yeah, conflict's fun too, for like what it is, you know. It's just...
Yeah, for what it is. It's a turn-based strategy. I'm thinking of the right game, right?
Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah, that game is actually a little bit of ahead of its time. I wonder what he got the special thanks for. Because that game actually uses some pretty cool AI that I'm not entirely sure how they pulled it off. So, yeah, definitely something that I didn't think was possible for the NES to do. They achieved it in Conflict. So, yeah, interesting that he was on that game.
Proceed, Father Avram.
Michiharu Hasuya, music and sound programming. Other works include Mighty Bomb Jack for the NES in 1986. Rygar for the NES in 1987. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for the NES in 1988. Clash at Demonhead for the NES in 1989. And Dino Wars for the NES in 1990.
Something that always puzzled me for years until I did the research on this game was that the hermit or guru chamber in Rygar always had the same exact music for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like note for note. It was identical.
Really?
And I couldn't figure out why, because Rygar was Tecmo, I believe, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think it was Bandai. I'm not 100% sure, but it was two different publishers.
Huh.
And and then I saw that and I was like, holy shit, it's the same guy.
Mm.
You know? It's the same guy. It's like the equivalent of being like, hey, you know this artwork I did for this game like a year ago? I'm just gonna throw it in here somewhere.
Yeah, and if they're two different studios, then absolutely there was an attorney. If there was an attorney, they would have caught that and raised a hissy fit. So, which makes me wonder if nobody caught it. Could that be possible? Players caught it.
Yeah.
Well, the music is like in
Iconic.
Rygar. It's kind of it's sort of like in these hidden caves. It's not like very prominent in the game, but like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it is the opening music. So there's no getting around it, you know.
And just wanted to confirm, yes, Rygar is Tecmo and Jekyll and Hyde is Bandai. So you were correct.
I should never doubt myself, goddammit.
It could have just been self-plagiarism, honestly.
It really could have. It could have been an Easter egg to himself.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'd have to say, honestly, I think that this game actually, if I could let a little bit out of the bag here, I think this game probably is his best out of those for music.
Rygar is pretty good.
I do like Rygar. I would, if Rygar isn't number one, then it's a close second to Golgo 13, I think.
All right.
Five official review scores put it at an average of 59%. That's being kind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it through the lens of 1988, though.
Yeah, true. I mean, it was very different. It was very ambitious. Offered a lot of variety in terms of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
None of it particularly done well, which we'll get into. But I did find a commercial, but for copyright reasons, I cannot play it here, as the song playing throughout the entire commercial is Secret Agent Man by Johnny Rivers.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. You know, I think this game honestly was kind of one of NES's like pitches to the fathers. A little bit. Could
you kind of explain what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, thematically, it's a little bit more adult than, and we'll get into the weeds on that, you know, as we start picking apart the game. But thematically, it's a little bit more adult themed than any other NES game at this time, I think.
Oh, absolutely, by far.
Yeah, it's basically like James Bond and, you know, Grand Theft Auto had a great grandfather baby.
Yeah.
You're tying in all of the spy fandom that you know is hitting globally, again, because of James Bond. You have the Japanese market seeing that and wanting to capitalize, both in the Pacific Rim and in the United States. And and I would tend to agree with you, Father Avram. I think that there is that sense of, okay, we have Mario, got it. We have Donkey Kong early, got it. Let's do something for the dads who love watching James Bond and can handle more dialogue, can handle more cutscenes.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not to let too much out of the bag, but who actually, you know, the whole idea of having a sharpshooting scenario is very visceral, and people who, you know, I grew up shooting rifles, like, that's appealing. Like, I'm looking down the sights. I had the reticle on the target. Like, that's, Yeah, we take it for granted now, but I think to your credit there, that's ahead of its time, and it's very visceral. It's lethal, So
Oh yeah, I mean, like you shoot that target in the tower and blood flies everywhere. Which, by the way, I don't know how they got past the.
I was gonna mention that later when we talked about graphics, actually, but we're kind of letting the cat out of the bag early this episode. But yeah, I was gonna mention the blood because I can't really think of any other NES game that. I mean, it's not a lot of blood, mind you, but it's enough. It's enough to recognize that it is blood, right?
Yeah. And like a game like Rescue Embassy Mission, just to throw one out there.
That's one I was going to throw out there.
Should have blood.
And it doesn't.
If Golgo 13 had blood, why didn't that game have blood?
Right.
Yep.
But it didn't. It snuck past the NES sensors.
Maybe the NES sensors couldn't get to that part of the game.
It's like the first section.
And
yeah, that's true. And that's very true, actually.
It's so good.
Anyway, I remember the game being teased in the Pack Watch section of the very first issue of Nintendo Power, where they stated it adds a new twist to NES software.
Sure does.
And the picture that it was like a very quick write-up and a very small cinematic picture where he's talking to Maria Lovelace, I think it is. And that was the only picture, and it was so different from anything I'd seen up to that point, because I believe this was pre-Ninja Gaiden, that I was like, I really want to play this game. And I remember it coming out, and I could not, for the life of me, find it in any stores.
The
rental scene was very, very new, and this was before the big chains like Blockbuster or anything made their way around. And this little mom and pop place actually had it, and I rented it, and I left kind of a little disappointed based on how much they hyped it up in the magazines.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back. So I love your firsthand experience with this. I'm reading the write-up that you've posted, and I want to go back to Father Avram's comment, because reading this, one of the sentences is, "We've seen an advanced copy of this one, and it plays out like a great spy novel." Yeah. I wasn't reading spy novels at 12.
No, none of us were.
But my dad was. He was reading Ludlum, and he was reading Man Called Intrepid, who wrote the guy who actually wrote the James Bond stuff. So that's a great point. It really is. I think it wasn't meant for us, and yet we're the ones playing NES.
Yep. Well, they were always trying to diversify their library, because the whole thing was like the NES is supposed to be the system for the family, right? So, it has a lot of family-friendly games, but then it's also like, okay, well, when everybody goes to bed and Dad can't sleep, maybe he's playing Golgo 13.
Yeah.
I found an official advertisement that I never saw before.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now, and it's very interesting.
We've got an assailant with his arm wrapped around a blonde in a chokehold. She's clearly in distress in a very, very tight-fitting miniskirt. The assailant has a pistol drawn and is aiming at, I believe, our protagonist, Duke, who's kind of lurking in the side of a building there in the shadows. Looks like a Mercedes-Benz in the background, a very clear casino in the background, and then lots of text, and even a mail this coupon in for a free Golgo 13 comic. I mean, this is a great ad.
It is, and there's also a black cat mysteriously in the picture.
I see that, yeah.
I have that comic.
Do you for real?
Yeah. When we first put Golgo 13 on the list of games to review, I got my hands on it. And pretty good.
Well, that's amazing.
Do you ever wonder if you cut out this coupon and mailed it to Vik Tokai at 22904 Loch Ness Ave, Torrance, California 90501? Do you think you'd get a response?
Don't know.
I kind of want to try now.
I don't know. It's kind of funny because back then the companies would put their addresses and even phone numbers sometimes on like everything.
Yeah. I want to, while we're in the presence of the great cathedral, I'm actually, if it's okay with you guys, I'm actually gonna do a little investigation on this.
Yeah, sure. I think that it makes sense that companies would put all their information on here because I mean this is the really like the dawn of the home entertainment video game craze, right? So it's like you have, movie directors and stuff like that, or publishers or whatever. Oh, I got a great story. I need somebody to make a game for me. Who the hell am I going to contact? Well, you can get an issue of Nintendo Power and get multiple contacts just from that issue. So, I think it makes sense. Now it's, it's a whole different world. But back then, I think it just seems like the right thing to do for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it probably didn't go very well because they're in complete secrecy now.
Yeah. I'm guessing it didn't go very well at all.
So just for everyone to know, 22904 Loch Ness Ave in Torrance, California is now Cutting Edge Productions, which
Interesting.
Looks like I see models. I see a very large venue, like a hockey arena, but decked out with chairs and a stage. I see concerts. So it looks like it's a soundstage and possibly performance hall.
Wow.
But at one point was the site of beloved Vik Tokai Inc.
Wow.
Yeah. There we go.
Can we take a moment to read some of the review quotes of the game that they put on this advertisement?
I think we should.
Nintendo Power said nominated for best game ever.
Holy crap.
And whoever nominated that for the magazine was fired.
Yep. First game to capture the flavor of a James Bond adventure. That is Game Players Magazine.
I would agree with that statement, actually.
There we go.
Yeah. Let us now discuss the 7 categories for which we execute judgment on Golgo 13. Category 1 is the narrative.
I would like to invite Christopher Hopper to read the narrative for us this session.
Thank you. Thank you, Father Avram. A reading from the Golgo 13 Manual. High above New York City, a helicopter explodes. Aboard the craft is the latest bacteriological warfare weapon, secretly developed by the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency, Cassandra G. A vaccine and plans have been stolen from among the fragments of the helicopter wreckage. A shell fired from an M16 has been discovered. The copter was shot down from fire from an expert sharpshooter armed with an M16 carbine. The CIA concludes that the act was the responsibility of the super sniper Golgo 13. An official release by the CIA links Golgo 13 to the KGB, the Soviet intelligence group. Under these circumstances, the CIA copter incident and the whereabouts of Cassandra G become entangled. A representative of a secret international organization called Fixer transmits a message. Fixer believes the affair is the work of the remnants of the Drek Empire, and not Golgo 13. After the dispatch, the representative disappears. The situation becomes more and more mysterious. A man who calls himself Condor agrees to help Fixer. In East Berlin, because Condor has received some information on Cassandra G, the CIA, KGB, and even Drek are threats to his life. On request from Fixer, Golgo 13 has gone into action. He is to get information on a vaccine from Condor and eliminate the leader of the Drek group. But wouldn't you know it? Just who is the ultimate target of Golgo 13? Just where is this Condor? And who is the real culprit behind the CIA helicopter explosion? Many enemies await you. Now that you have become Golgo 13, let's go to East Berlin. This is a reading from the manual.
Praise be Vik Tokai.
So, regardless of the fact that I probably got flagged by the CIA and the FBI for writing this in Google Drive, the story in the manual is pretty great. I think it pulls you in and keeps you anticipating the cutscenes to find out what will happen next.
Yeah.
I have another thing about the cutscenes that I want to say. It kind of goes into gameplay, but I feel like it's very important to say it.
I think there's plenty to talk about in gameplay, and if it's story related, here we are.
Okay. Since I just mentioned the cutscenes, I'm going to say I looked forward to the cutscenes in the game. I could not wait for them. It was probably because the game was so shitty.
Yeah. Well,
I have to say the story itself I feel like is it scratches an itch because it's written like a B-rated movie, right? And it's basically just kind of like feel-good espionage, just way over the top, with the prose. But it's just feel-good espionage writing.
this falls into the category in my world of what we call a popcorn book. There is flat character development, aka no character development, because you don't care what lessons the character is going to learn. You're not in there, you're not looking for them to grow and mature as a person. And what you are literally like, dude, we're headed to East Berlin because the CIA, the KGB, and Drek are there working with Fixer. I'm going to meet some hot babes who are going to get me tips while we're in the subway. I mean, it's like, it's just fabulous. It's fabulous. And so I'm going to save my ultimate statement for the end of the episode. But I have very, very passionate one-liner on what I think this game should have been. So, to be continued.
Okay. That's literally all I wrote for the narrative. Pros and cons.
Cool.
I would like to say a couple of things here. So as we know, this is a Japanese manga story, developed in or written in 1960?
1968.
Yeah, 1968. So, but this game, I would like to say it's interesting, right? Because they're like, oh, this flows like a great spy novel, but the writing really is not like a great spy novel, right? Granted, you have the limitations of the NES, but it's kind of like B-rated American, independent movie almost, But there's so much that gets tagged on to the timing of this. Think about what's going on in the world in 1988. We are on the heels of the Cold War closing off. Right. You have James Bond: The Living Daylights, hitting theaters the year before, which has Timothy Dalton as James Bond, which the literal off of IMDb, the elevator pitch here is James Bond is sent to investigate a KGB policy to kill all enemy spies and uncovers an arms deal that potentially has major global ramifications. So this is a hot ticket item.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing is, it's just all coordinated, it seems. When you look at what's going on in the world, you look at the James Bond movies that are coming out, the fact that the actually pitching James Bond, and granted, James Bond and Duke Togo are totally different characters. They really are. Like,
Yes.
if you actually look at them,
Oh yeah.
they are 100% different characters. But they still scratch that espionage itch, right? And so I think that the game does it justice. However, and this is all that being said, he doesn't talk. Like, throughout the entire game, he says one-liners, which makes sense, the limitations of Nintendo. But he gets sent on missions, and his catchphrase throughout the entire game, every time he's given a mission, is, "Well, I guess I'll give it a try."
Which for a cold-blooded assassin who, quote, accepts many different assassination jobs from anyone who can afford his services and is willing to kill anyone who will threaten to expose him, that doesn't seem like the most apropos byline.
No, that is not what he would say at all. So I'm not sure who wrote that line.
To be honest, just to your point, Father Avram, yes, the stories are current affairs. So, like, the one that I read, for instance, it was called Supergun. It took place in Baghdad during the Gulf War. I think this is supposed to be another edition of the manga in video game form. Now, to your point about him talking, I watched the movie The Professional, and I would honestly say he would say nothing. He doesn't talk much at all, unless it's somebody he knows.
And to that point, I really think that plays well in the video game genre because I am Golgo 13. Like, I am Duke. And so it leaves me to impress upon the gameplay, what would I say, since I'm this badass assassin? So there's a part of me that wishes he didn't say, "Well, I guess I'll try." Like, it's like, womp womp.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it would have just been so much better had it just been, leave it flat and let me impress upon the character what I would bring to the table. I don't know. Just one thought.
Yeah, or something more,
Substantiative.
something more emotionless, something. You're talking about we just mentioned, this guy's a Renaissance man. He can basically do anything. And
Right.
yet he has this extremely imposing self-doubt where he says, "Well, I guess I'll give it a try." Like, that is so, like, I'm not sure if I can do this, but
God, it's so true.
I guess I'll give it a try.
You just read that like George McFly.
Yes,
You did.
exactly. It is a George McFly line. It really is.
Yep.
And this is not George McFly. This is the polar opposite of George McFly.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't hit right. And when I the first time I saw it, I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't add up."
Hey, you, get your damn hands off of her.
Offer. Oh, it's so good. Yes.
All right, let's move on. Let us proceed to category 2, which is audio. My first pro for audio is the title track is the best track in the entire game.
It's a great track.
Yeah.
It is a great track. It's a, what do they call it? An earworm. It definitely is, and it's catchy. It's not. There are other great Nintendo tracks that you don't get stuck in your head. This one you actually get stuck in your head.
Yeah, and it's very nostalgic. Like it just, I mean, they're using the sound engine perfectly. It captures the era. It captures, I hear it and it takes me right back. So,
Yep.
And it's simple. It didn't try to be too complex. There aren't a lot of components to it, and so I dig it.
For me, the sound effects are solid, except for the explosions.
Okay, explain.
Well, the explosions sound like rather than like a sort of clapping thunder sound.
Personally, the sound effects didn't bother me because just are so or the explosions, I should say. They're just so over the top for me. It actually had some callback, or I guess call forward. I'd have to look at the year, to Top Gun and some of the missile explosions in Top Gun.
Oh yeah, maybe so.
Yes, I agree with that. 100%. I think it also matches the explosions that they used in Conflict, which is what I'm trying to validate right now.
Okay.
Even Top Gun, though, was a little bit more thundering. Like, it was bassy. It was like...
That's true.
They're not exactly the same, but the sound effects in Conflict are similar. Like, they're very tonal for the explosions. So this could just be a design choice for them. But I do agree, it's not like... I don't think they're the best explosion sound effects, for sure. And I think that the rest of the sound design in general, I mean, the sniper shot was cool.
Yeah.
That was a great sound effect.
Yep, for sure.
Even the pistol. The pistol was a cool sound effect.
The pistol
too.
was good too, yeah.
But the explosion, my favorite all-time explosion on the NES is Blaster Master when you die and you're in the tank. It's quick, it's violent, it's perfect.
Yeah. I think you need the Archbishop Dracul canon of ranked sound effects. I'd like to see that manual in print, preferably.
That will actually be part of his fundraiser for Extra Life this year. His countdown has to do with soundtrack ranking.
Perfect.
Yeah. One last thing I'd like to mention about the music is it's very recycled. This game is long, and I think that having recycled music is fine in this case because, again, you're dealing with memory limitations of the Nintendo Entertainment System. But I can't think of a concrete example off the top of my head, and you're just going to have to play it. But some of the music choices, I feel like they didn't fit. Like they were recycled, but they just didn't really fit that well.
If I can riff off you for a little bit, I found outside of the title track, the entire rest of the soundtrack is completely morose.
I agree with that. Yeah.
It's depressing.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree.
Let us proceed to Category 3, which is gameplay.
A reading from the manual. How to play. Action progresses horizontally on the screen. During play, if suddenly attacked from a blind angle, the scene will change to what is called pan and zoom. In this case, the player will see the scene from Golgo 13's perspective. When all enemies have been wiped out, action resumes at the beginning of the scene. On the horizontally scrolling screen, there will be a subway and a building. There you will meet a person who gives you information that will help unravel the story in the animated text window. In the action maze, when enemies are being knocked off and falling against the walls, you can search for various paraphernalia. Even with these paraphernalia, you must pass through the laser curtain at precisely the right time, or you will be killed. When you have used up all your bullets, take appropriate precautions. As you knock off your enemies, life credits and your supply of bullets are restored. Total number of telecasts is 52. You may continue to 51. When in the middle of play, you go past 52 times. You will have to return to the very beginning of the game, so be carefully. This is a reading from the manual.
Praise be Vik Tokai.
That was actually in the manual.
Yes.
That typo was actually in the manual.
That's...
Can I just point out right away that they're calling, I guess, continues telecasts?
Yes, and that is something that we need to talk about. It's actually... Well, you go ahead and finish your thought, and then I'm gonna...
I don't have one. I'm kind of perplexed by the choice.
Well, it represents 13 episodes for 4 seasons of an average anime show.
Oh.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
That's kind of a creative choice.
That
actually.
is.
And that actually kind of explains the framing of the cutscenes and stuff like that. It's very TV in this presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, that does make sense, especially considering the credits at the end of the game, where they have a faux credit roll, as it were. So, very interesting choice. I like it, actually. It's different.
Yes. There's a lot of interesting gameplay variations for the time, but none of them are done particularly well. That's one of my cons. And it's a con and a pro. Sort of a backhanded compliment.
Yep. So you have the walking through the city side-scrolling portion, which I would argue is one of the worst portions of the game.
Yes.
Yeah. And but then you have, when you get attacked in the city, you have the side-scrolling like shoot 'em up, which is also rather terrible. But we're, for 1988, not horrible either. And then what else do we have? We have the side-scrolling helicopter scene. Yeah. So when you're in the helicopter, yeah, go ahead, Christopher.
No, I just think there is, we're getting into some really cool creativity in the same way that the story, again, is riffing on this spy motif. I mean, it's not just that you have the aerial helicopter side scroller, but there's combat scenarios. There's air combat, but then you get subs launching missiles straight up. Like, this is great. So the variation, I feel like they didn't just take something typical, but they iterated on it. And same like with the scuba scenes, the underwater scenes. There's this sense of, I do feel like I'm going to get something a little bit different as we go. I'm going to get eventually a winter warfare scene. And I'm going to get a maze scene. I'm going to get urban. I'm going to end up in sci-fi land. Like, it really does have this cool progression from a level design standpoint that is... Honestly, I don't know who else was doing this much. Archbishop Dracul, you had said ambitious. And I think that is a
very apropos word for this game design.
It feels like they really bit off more that they could chew. And
Yeah, because none of them is done well, like you said. It's all. I mean, they kind of pass, right? They get a pass. But one of the things that I did not like about the aerial combat, for example, is that the bullets just kind of they don't feel visceral enough. They don't have any impact. There's no satisfaction to it.
They go right through.
Yeah,
they go right through everything. And
Yeah.
you're sitting there like spamming the gun, like wasting all your bullets. Wondering if you're even hitting anything. And it's just like on the big craft, you know.
Yep. And the same thing with like the street combat. Like the street combat, the jumping is like wonky as anything.
Jumping is garbage.
And you have to jump over the bullets that are being fired at you in order to get closer.
Yeah, because you can't duck and shoot.
Right. So like there's just I think each one of the sections, like I guess you could say really each one of the mini games. Each one of the mini games has glaring holes in quality. You know, in the maze section, you have something that feels very, very much like Rescue Embassy Mission, but not done nearly as well. So everything is just kind of like, yeah, we'll get into technical later. I was going to say something technical, but we'll get into technical.
This is the first NES game with an implied sexting to recover your health. In the Japanese version, Cherry Grace gets undressed before the famous window scene.
Yo!
She gets completely undressed.
How come that didn't make it to the US? I feel gypped. My 13-year-old self wants to go back in time now.
Yeah, she gets undressed. She tells children to look away and then gets undressed.
God. That's amazing. Okay, can I add to that? So from the original manga series, and I'm quoting from a summary of the story, it's known that Duke may be the biological father of many different children, quote, all over the world from the many sexual encounters he's had with women throughout the series. So I think that, like, if we're going to talk, like, and I know it's tongue in cheek, okay, but if we're going to talk about ethereal, authorial, I should say, integrity, this fits. This isn't like trying to do something just to get a rise out of people. Yes, that's what she said. It is actually true to form, which makes it even better to me.
Yep. Oh, that's a pro of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Crisis averted.
Very early sniper gameplay. That's a pro, which I don't really recall. I don't really recall an NES game around that time sniping, like having sort of a first-person sniping game in it.
Can I backpedal for just a second? I had to check with ChatGPT.
Okay.
I asked it if it was the first game that implied health recovery after sexual encounters. And it does say that it's challenging to definitively say it was the first without considering obscure, less documented games, but without a doubt is one of the earliest and most notable examples of this mechanic.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
I mean, don't we all feel like our health improves? What a little. Just saying.
Where is? I mean, you know, that's where the term chipper comes from.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about pros and cons in everything that we've discussed up to this point in gameplay. There are a couple cons that I would like to pinpoint. The horizontal action, which is the walking, and I just gotta say, this is like an awkward, shitty version of Namco's Rolling Thunder.
Yes.
It's awful. It's awful. There's a delay input on the jumping. this paired with the inability to duck and shoot makes it virtually impossible to not get hit when facing enemies. I can't even begin to say how awkward it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and when you do a jump kick, it doesn't always register. The collisions are like really wonky. It really pisses me off.
Tell us how you really feel.
And thank you for the pan and zoom sequences. I think they're annoying as hell, but like that's the only way you can survive. And I think it was an actual afterthought. Like something that they said, this is impossible. We have to do something in order to. What if we just have a gun come up in the foreground and shoot at him? And then we go to like this pan and zoom sequence. And every time you shoot something, you get like a shit ton of health and bullets back.
Yeah. No, it's probably true that it seems like an afterthought, because it's not really done that well, right?
That the game would be unplayable without that. Unplayable.
It is your saving grace for sure.
I wish Golgo 13 used his sniper rifle more in the game.
Agreed.
100%.
Every time you use a continue, it gives you full health but takes away half of your bullets. Which that completely sucks. If you're not paying attention, you could be in a really shitty situation quick.
Yeah. I can't help but sense the frustration, the angst in your tone as you are presiding over this tonight.
Yes, it kind of goes back pretty far for me. I never got far in this game ever. In fact, the furthest I got was the end of Rome. And that's without using like save states or anything. And that's about as far as I ever got. And honestly, when I was a kid and I rented this game, I never got I think I got to the hotel scene once and I was like 10 years old and I was just like, the hell's going on? but I wasn't completely stupid though. You know, my grandmother would watch soap operas and stuff, and so I kind of understood that people mashed together to do stuff, but
yeah,
and they did literally mash together.
It's a very artistic way of saying it.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
So you mentioned something when you mentioned the angst that we haven't mentioned yet, and it's very important. And that is, you mentioned how far you got. There is no save point, save feature, or otherwise password system to save your place in this game or level skip. And it is the most frustrating thing ever because it is a very long game.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a major strike against it in my book.
Yeah, which makes you wonder, does this go back to, okay, we envision adults playing this? But, which, by the way, I think that if so, they severely overestimated adults' ability to play through this game with any sense of like skill. Because I can now say I have played this as a young child and I have played it as an adult, and in neither scenario does it work well.
I totally agree.
And I mean, the game, the long play, I watched a long play because I couldn't finish the game. I watched a long play. The long play is almost 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an almost perfect execution of the game.
Yep.
So I'm not entirely sure how long they think an adult is going to sit there and play the game. But I can guarantee you in 1988, it wasn't that long.
Yeah. True.
And not that often.
Yes. 100%.
Let us proceed to category 4, which is graphics. So I felt like the characters were rendered pretty nicely for the 8-bit NES, and they were pretty big on screen. I could not stand trying to find my next waypoint because I could not distinguish the difference between an entrance and the background art, except for the subway entrances.
Yeah, those are the only ones that stood out.
Outside of that, it's anybody's guess where you're supposed to fucking enter in order to get to the next, get into a building or into the next scene or whatever. It's really infuriating.
I will say on a positive, I felt that the miniatures in the aerial scenes, beginning with the opening helicopter coming in, were extremely endearing. And for me, seeing this game again took me back to how I would draw little aircraft, because I would do side-scrolling. We would, in school, we would take 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, tape them horizontally together to create like a huge side scroll like battle with where you draw a line along the bottom, undulating for topography, and have bases on either end, and then we would draw in our our tanks and our ATVs and our jets and our helicopters. And so when I saw these again, it took me back to those memories, some 30 years ago. And I just, it made it like all the feels, warm and fuzzy, loved it. So even though I know it's chintzy and it's very bit oriented, I still thought it was great. So just a personal anecdote there.
I did enjoy all the details on the graphics for 1988, for everything that they crammed into this cart.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And they were still able to get some pretty good detail on most of the sprites. I didn't like the walking animations at all for anything. Even though I understand they were only a couple of frames, I just feel like they could have been posed better. But yes, I think that actually the aerial combat very much shoot 'em up feels with the sprites. They captured that feel, and that was done well. The backgrounds I thought were actually pretty good, even though I 100% agree with what Archbishop Dracul said about the entrances not popping, because yeah, that's aggravating. They weren't terrible to look at. They were done nice for an 8-bit kind of setting. I've seen better, but they weren't horrible.
Let us proceed to category 5, which is box art and presentation.
A reading from the back of the box. He's Golgo 13, the legendary agent who's never failed on a mission. Now, he's facing his toughest challenge, to recover a stolen vial of Cassandra G, the deadliest weapon in the history of biological warfare. But he can't do it without your help. Join forces with Golgo 13 on an action-packed odyssey to recapture Cassandra G before it is unleashed on the human race. Whether he succeeds or not is up to you, and every second counts. A reading from the back of the box.
Praise be Vik Tokai.
So for me, the monochrome box art really captures the game's tone well. I also like the choice to use blood red for the text. When I was a kid, I found it very intriguing. Like, nobody knew who the hell Golgo 13 was in the US. And there was no way to find out until you played the game. It's actually quite brilliant. Because that's what struck with me when I was a kid. Like, who the hell is Golgo 13? I gotta play this. I gotta figure out like what this is all about.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I want to say, as a strike against it, first of all, there's some incoherence going on for me. If you take a look at the ad that we saw earlier, and the typography, the style, the intensity, and then look at this cover art, they don't. I would never say that's the same game. Now, that could be a little bit of modern chauvinism showing through. Like, we're so brand centric, everything is on brand. You know, we're hypersensitive to font choice and color, and all these things that evoke a direct, instant connection to a brand. So there's a little bit of a strike against it there for me. But the other thing is, I find that the while it is alluring, I do agree. I have to say that the font choice is very funsy. Like,
Yeah.
it's very rounded, sans serif, and according to weight, the game is called Top Secret Episode, and then on the bottom is Golgo 13. And so I kind of feel like, again, I just imagine these companies and chains of departments not coordinating with each other, and somebody like, we're doing this game, it's called Top Secret Episode Golgo 13. Somebody else was like, oh, it's all about Golgo 13, and this guy Duke Trago, and no one really sat down to build something cohesive, which, again, looking back retrospectively, feels endearing. But I also kind of go, like, guys, did everybody sit in the same room at any point in the making of this game? So
That's a great point.
so anyway,
Really.
yeah, just some thoughts there. But it is classic. It's hard not to love it. So I don't know.
Yeah, because the box. It's a great point, because the box and the ads were probably done by the same marketing team.
You would think.
You would think. But you're definitely right about the font. It's bubbly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does kind of evoke more gentle feelings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess. So you're right about that. Yeah, it looks very kind of like generic in some
Like
way.
Dick Tracy.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a great comparison.
Actually, that's
Totally.
spot on.
Yep. And yeah, Golgo 13 is down at the bottom of the front of the box, but then it's featured on the binder and the back of the box.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of confusing. We've seen this kind of thing before with other NES games, for sure, where there's just sort of this weird kind of branding confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And we've covered a few of those within the miNEStry here. So it's not. I would say it's not uncommon, but it sure is strange.
Yeah.
Let us proceed to category 6, which is fun factor.
Let us proceed to categories.
Can I just say, I enjoyed watching the whole run through more than I enjoyed playing the game.
Agreed.
Yep.
100%.
I rented this game a lot as a kid, and I could never make it past the first maze.
Oh.
The memories of failure made me procrastinate to the last possible moment to play this game before our meeting.
Oh.
And I had a good couple hours before our meeting today where I was planning on playing, and I just said, "Fuck it."
That's so funny.
I have no desire to play this game. It is not fun. And what would have made it fun if they would have taken all that time they spent on the other mechanics of the game
Mm-hmm.
and put all that into the sniper mechanic. and just had the game be a bunch of sniping
Mm-hmm.
and story, and I would have fucking loved this game. But that shitty Rolling Thunder ripoff, awful.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to find something to appeal to everyone, I think, in this game. And
So I was gonna save this to the end, but this is the perfect opportunity. Archbishop Dracul. My conclusion is that this needed to be a first-person sniper shooter RPG. If it had done that, we would have had all the story, which was fun. We would have had the sniper scenes, which were the strength, and we would have had the wonderful characterizations and Eve Christie and Cherry Grace and Smirk and the Drek Empire and Fixer Group and all these things. I think it would have been a much more popular game with some continued save points.
Yes.
yeah, I didn't have fun playing this game either. I found it more frustrating than fun.
Mm.
The only appeal that this game brought was thematic. What I had fun with was watching the story unfold, which I think is why I enjoyed watching the playthrough more than playing the game.
Interesting.
Let us proceed to category 7, which is technical. Pro for me is no NES slowdown or sprite flickering I've run into. I don't know about you guys.
The helicopter scene for me had a ton of sprite flickering.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Oh, the flying sequences?
The helicopter sequences, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, I take that back.
But everything else, you are correct, yeah.
The collisions on jump kicks are wonky, I already said that.
Yep.
And collisions, I already said this too, but I have the note here that says collisions during the Gradius style levels suck ass.
I mean, it felt so like you know. I'm thinking fluidity mostly. That's where I go because I'm not a coder. I'm. That's not the world I live in. So I'm purely like in terms of fluidity of gameplay, and I can't remember who just mentioned it earlier, but jumping like. For me, if I have a side scroller, it's really important that jumping is responsive, predictable, and in later games, measurable. And in turn, I can modulate it in some way. Obviously, there's a sensitivity there, so that I feel in control. You know what I mean? Like I'm not questioning whether or not I can get the character to do something. I'm more focused on how I respond to the enemy. That was not here. This was very much the opposite. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna die because I can't actually manipulate this well. And so for me, that's a big strike against it. The only saving grace to that, back to the sniper scenes. So, yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything that's said, except the offset here from a technical standpoint as a coder is I am impressed with how much they were able to fit into this game. I know they didn't do it well. 100% agree with everything that was said here. But they did so much. This is 3 years after the NES has hit the market in the US, and it really is kind of a technical feat. They have, I don't even know how many acts were there? 12 or something like that. What?
13
acts in the game. I don't even know how many levels per se, but if you were to just count an act as a level, that is stereotypically like twice as many levels as any other game. That's being put out to market. So they've just jam-packed so much content into this cartridge. And for me, that makes it a very impressive technical category. In spite of all the physics and jumping crap and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Fair enough. I mean, I feel like that's a very valid. So we're talking scope, breadth of scope helps offset some of the finer points that are issues.
I mean, I think so, just purely on a technical level. I don't think it was the right decision from a game design perspective. I think, honestly, if they had narrowed their content and made the game, better in all the ways that we've mentioned here, like, they would have had a slam dunk. But, that wasn't the decision they made. But just purely on a technical level, how much content they were able to provide is pretty striking.
Right. I can resonate with that.
Let us proclaim the hints and cheats of our game.
A reading from the manual. The way to secret conquest. Anyway, you have to knock off the enemy. When ammunition is low, on the horizontally scrolling screen, use the B and A button to jump kick. In pan and zoom mode, before the enemy missiles are attacked, you shoot these missiles. You must not fail to destroy these enemy missiles. Also, both going to a hotel and picking up paraphernalia occasionally increase your life credits. You might study in actual battle conditions just how much damage you absorb under an enemy attack, and just how much you gain when you eliminate an enemy. If you make progress on your jump kick, you will find that you can employ any number of different useful techniques. Think about this. Keep in mind that before entering the action maze, you should make sure that you are carrying 3 hand grenades. If you knock off a soldier with a machine gun, you will get a hand grenade. Listen carefully to the dialogue that is spoken in the animated text window. A lot of information is given in dialogues that can only be heard once, so watch for it. If you get stuck, go back to the place you've been to before. In the action maze, if you become confused, try preparing a map for yourself on graph paper. In a fight, all you need are effort and spirit to win.
That's bullshit.
I beg to differ, manual.
A reading from the manual.
Fuck you, Vik Tokai.
Game FAQs has cheats and codes for a level select, but good fucking luck doing it by yourself. Here's how you do it. Wait until the helicopter demo ends, and wait until Duke's eye shows up. One of the eyes will disappear, followed by a flash over the eye. Hit start when the flash ends, and before the intro text appears, now at the title screen, hold up A and B on controller 1, and hold up left A and B on controller 2, then hit start on controller 1. If done right, a screen with 2 numbers will appear. Enter the numbers below to the corresponding level.
Now, wait a minute.
They listed in the site.
What kind of nuclear bomb level select is this? Because it sounds like you need 2 people to do it, otherwise you will fail.
Yeah, you do need 2 people to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
And this is not a 2-player game. Honestly, when I see this is basically a way of them devlocking the level select.
Yeah.
And now, brethren, let us offer each other the body of price. Game price then and now, we could not find any definitive proof of how much Golgo 13 cost back in the day, which is really unfortunate. I think this is the first game in the history of the miNEStry where we don't have a price for the game back in the day.
Yeah, I looked everywhere.
That's really unfortunate. So we won't be able to give a comparison. We usually like to give a comparison of, what it would cost today due to inflation and what have you. However, we won't be able to do that today. So we're just going to talk about the prices on price charting. Pricecharting.com has a loose cart listed for $5.88.
Too expensive.
Just the box is $16. Just the manual only is $5.01. Complete inbox, $35.74. Am I wrong in saying that this, I think, is actually the cheapest complete inbox game we've reviewed in the miNEStry? I think it may
Probably
be.
so.
Yeah. And then brand new, sealed inbox. Whopping $95, which really is not bad at all for a sealed brand new game. Not bad at all. That surprises me. I would have thought that there were less of these games, but I guess that's either not desired or just not very well known, or something is causing this price to not be a little higher than what I would expect, for sure.
Yeah.
Let us execute judgment on Golgo 13 and decide which of the 7 cardinal sins it has committed. Father Avram, in regards to narrative, what is your final judgment?
In regards to narrative, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
Deacon Hopper, in regards to narrative, what is your final judgment?
In regards to narrative, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
In regards to narrative and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has been spared. Father Avram, in regards to audio, what is your final judgment?
This is the tough one.
I'm waiting to see what you do.
I know. In regards to audio, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
Ooh.
Deacon Hopper, in regards to audio, what is your final judgment?
In regards to audio, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
In regards to audio and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has been spared. Father Avram, in regards to gameplay, what is your final judgment?
In regards to gameplay, Golgo 13 has committed a most heinous cardinal sin.
Deacon Hopper, in regards to gameplay, what is your final judgment?
In regards to gameplay, Golgo 13 has committed a most fucking heinous cardinal sin.
In regards to gameplay and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has committed a loathsome cardinal sin deserving of hellfire and damnation.
1.
Father Avram, in regards to graphics, what is your final judgment?
In regards to graphics, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
Deacon Hopper, in regards to graphics, what is your final judgment?
In regards to graphics, Golgo 13 has committed no fault.
In regards to graphics and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has been spared. Father Avram, in regards to box art and presentation, what is your final judgment?
In regards to box art and presentation, Golgo 13 has committed a most heinous cardinal sin.
Deacon Hopper, in regards to box art and presentation, what is your final judgment?
In regards to box art and presentation, Golgo 13 has broken so many rules and committed a most heinous cardinal sin.
In regards to box art and presentation, and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has committed a loathsome cardinal sin deserving of hellfire and damnation.
2.
Father Avram. In regards to fun factor, what is your final judgment?
In regards to fun factor, Golgo 13 has committed the most heinous cardinal sin.
Deacon Hopper. In regards to fun factor, what is your final judgment?
In regards to fun factor, Golgo 13 was a whole lot more fun watching somebody else play it, but I had a terrible time, and it's committed a most heinous cardinal sin.
In regards to fun factor and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has committed a loathsome cardinal sin deserving of hellfire and damnation.
3.
Father Avram. In regards to technical, what is your final judgment?
In regards to technical, Golgo 13 has committed a most heinous cardinal sin.
Deacon Hopper. In regards to technical, what is your final judgment?
In regards to technical, technically speaking, Golgo 13 has committed a most heinous cardinal sin. Yes.
In regards to technical and in the presence of this assembly, Golgo 13 has committed a loathsome cardinal sin deserving of hellfire and damnation.
4.
Golgo 13, by the authority vested in me, I execute judgment upon you. Having committed 4 cardinal sins in the categories of gameplay, box art presentation, fun factor, and technical, in which there could be no forgiveness, no mercy, no redemption, we exile you to the bowels of hell, riding on Satan's dickhole. This concludes tonight's service. Remember, our liturgy does not simply come to an end. Those assembled are sent forth to bring the fruits of the ministry to the world. Join us next month for Carnov with Deacon Cornelius.